occupational hazards.
Yes. And why would you not
water,
think it is
like
not
that.
an occupational hazard if someone is being forced to work 8 hours under 120 degrees
And
without getting regular breaks?
And employers are already taking action to
So
protect
you
workers
believe
from heat.
employers should have the responsibility to decide
have
who
a
dies and who
responsibility.
survives in the heat?
They have a responsibility to keep their workers safe, most definitely, but that is separate and apart from.
Wow, did you catch that right there is the perfect example of what happens when performative outrage meets actual legal expertise? We just watched REP Ilhan Omar try to turn a congressional hearing into a moral purity test while completely ignoring how the law actually works. She tried to set a trap, but the witness, Miss Melito, did not take the bait. If you want to see what it looks like when someone chooses facts over feelings, stick around, because we are breaking this down, and trust me, you are going to want to hear this.
And lastly, before I yield back my time, Mr. Molino, Miss Molino, why do you believe workers suffering heat exhaustion is not a work hazard?
Excuse me. It is a public health hazard, and OSHA is limited by what the authority that Congress has delegated it. OSHA has authority to regulate and oversee occupational hazards.
Yeah, standards, right?
Occupational hazards.
Yes. And why would you not
water,
think it is
like
not
that.
an occupational hazard if someone is being forced to work 8 hours under 120 degrees
And
without getting regular breaks?
And employers are already taking action to
So
protect
you
workers
believe
from heat.
employers should have the responsibility to decide
have
who
a
dies and who
responsibility.
survives in the heat?
They have a responsibility to keep their workers safe, most definitely, but that is separate and apart from
So you're
OSHA's
saying
authority.
those employers who have not done that, who have seen people die at their workplaces in places like Texas, it's just because they're bad people, and we shouldn't have the responsibility of protecting the workers, is what I hear.
That's not what I'm saying, but thank you.
I thank the gentlelady. I recognize now the gentleman from California, Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the last Congress, this committee held the Biden administration accountable for its anti-worker agenda. And now that we've turned the page, we have an incredible opportunity to enable and facilitate the pro-worker, pro-small business, pro-growth policies that are coming from the new administration. But this committee's oversight proved particularly critical when President Biden made the baffling decision to elevate the state labor secretary with the very worst record in the country to be his Secretary of Labor. And our committee actually brought in Ms. Julie Su for a hearing at that time where we were able to show how she was the Secretary of Labor for the state, California, that had the single highest rate of unemployment in the entire country in her tenure, first out of 50, had the lowest rate of wage growth in the entire country, 50 out of 50, and had the highest rate of real poverty in the country, first out of 50. And then that she also was the architect of the most disgraceful, notorious labor law in modern US history, that being AB 5. Now, after she came in for a hearing here, the US Senate refused to confirm her. Her nomination was stopped with bipartisan opposition. But of course, the Biden administration chose to lawlessly keep her at the helm of the Labor Department for the entire tenure of the administration. And in that position, she did indeed attempt to federalize the failed policies of California by implementing a new rule that was designed to mimic the effects of AB 5 in California as far as limiting the freedom of independent contractors. Now, the good news is that that regulation has not yet wreaked the sort of damage that we had anticipated, perhaps because of the illegitimacy of Ms. Su's tenure at the helm of the Labor Department, which shattered all records, by the way, for an acting unconfirmed secretary. But nevertheless, we still find ourselves in the situation where that regulation is on the books, where there continues to be uncertainty as far as the livelihoods of independent contractors, the ability of small businesses to work for them. So in order to resolve this issue, to provide certainty, to protect the rights of workers and countless enterprises across the country, I've introduced the Modern Worker Empowerment Act, which would specify that the classification standard for an independent contractor comes down to two intuitive factors. Number one being the degree of control of the hiring entity over the work performed, and the second being the opportunity for profit or loss, or the opportunities and risks inherent to entrepreneurship. This is a pretty common sense standard designed to say that if you truly are running your own enterprise, then you don't need to be forced into a W-2 classification. In addition to that, I've introduced the Modern Worker Security Act. So we have the Modern Worker Empowerment Act and the Modern Worker Security Act. This legislation is designed to encourage the use of portable benefits, which will provide a level of a social safety net for independent workers that they can take with them from job to job, things like healthcare and retirement savings. The problem in existing law is that if associations or companies or other groups choose to provide those benefits, then it's kind of like no good deed goes unpunished. You've had that then used by regulators to say, oh, look at that, you're providing benefits, you must be an employer. We're going to force this to be considered a W-2 arrangement, which is not what either party to the transaction wants. So it's had this chilling effect on the ability to offer portable benefits and for workers to have that measure of security. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to move both of those measures through this committee and provide more certainty to millions of folks across the country. I think this will have a tremendous impact on our workforce. And maybe with the remaining time, Melito, since you mentioned this, the labor regulation, the independent contractor regulation in your testimony, could you just give us a sense of how damaging this uncertainty has been for small businesses?
Yeah, it's created a lot of headaches for business owners who cannot determine whether or not somebody they've hired once a week to come in and do their website improvement needs to be, as you put it, a W-2 person, or because they also do website work for other businesses, can I pay them, as an independent contractor? Because they have their own business, they have their own business card there. The Empowerment Act that you have introduced would be very helpful on that front in codifying that simple, very simple two-factor test the Trump rule had. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I yield back.
Okay, let us take a deep breath, because there is a lot to unpack here. First, huge credit to Ms. Melito, because it is not easy to sit there while a sitting congresswoman tries to paint you as some kind of villain who wants workers to suffer. Did you notice how calm she stayed? That is professionalism in real time. Here is the real problem with Rep. Ilhan Omar and her line of questioning. She is confusing emotion with jurisdiction. She keeps asking why heat exhaustion is not a work hazard. She wants a simple yes or no that fits her narrative, but Ms. Melito gives the correct answer, not the political one. She explains that heat is a public health issue, not specifically an occupational hazard under the current statutory limits of OSHA. That matters because words matter. OSHA, which stands for Occupational Safety and Health Administration, only has the authority that Congress gives it. They can regulate specific workplace dangers. They cannot regulate the sun. Ms. Melito is clearly explaining a basic legal reality. An agency can only do what Congress authorizes it to do, but watch what Rep. Ilhan Omar does next. This is textbook bad faith politics. The moment she hears a legal distinction she does not like, she pivots to a moral attack. She tries to imply that employers are bad people. That is a straw man argument. Nobody said that. Ms. Melito even acknowledged that employers already have responsibilities to protect workers. She said it clearly, but Rep. Ilhan Omar was not listening. She was grandstanding. She wanted a sound bite. She wanted a viral moment. She wanted to frame this as evil corporations versus the people while ignoring the fact that federal agencies have limits. This is the larger issue with politicians like Rep. Ilhan Omar. They believe that strong feelings should override the law. They act like caring about an issue gives them permission to bypass the Constitution and expand government power wherever they want. Ms. Melito was having a conversation about statutory authority, about what the law actually says. Rep. Ilhan Omar was having a conversation about vibes, and honestly, it is embarrassing for a lawmaker to either not understand or intentionally ignore the limits of the legislative branch she serves in. We need More people in DC like Miss Melito who understand that you cannot regulate your way out of every problem by endlessly expanding bureaucracy, and we need fewer politicians who treat committee hearings like audition tapes for fundraising emails fax. Matter the Constitution Matters and Miss Melito just took Rep. Ilhan Omar to school.